Welcome to Road to the College Football Playoff, presented by Allstate.
I'm Joe Tessitore, and this is the Road to the College Football Playoff as we give our attention to #1 Clemson. Yes, #1 Clemson, the defending national champs. Although you go back to the summer and the way many of us were talking about Clemson, many of the fans of the game were discussing Clemson, they were grossly underrated. Their best player was off to the NFL, and in their own division was a more highly regarded national title contending team. But we all learned a lesson. Don't doubt Dabo. Clemson as a program has now reached the level few will ever see.
We start over every year. This is a group of guys that haven't won a championship.
They bring back a rock-solid defense.
I like Kelly Bryant at quarterback.
Everybody's back at the bottom of the mountain, and everybody's trying to get to the top.
1, 2, 3.
Bryant's going to keep it. Spins off the tackle, stays on his feet, and hits the end zone. Stinn's in all sorts of trouble. He's going to be sacked.
Play action for Bryant. He's going to take a downfield shot, and they will not catch it. Incomplete, no intercepted. Swiped by Dorian O'Daniel, who's going to take it back.
First team to beat 3 teams in the top 15 in the month of September ever. Hats off to our guys. They're going to make us play October, November, last time I checked.
Bryant hurled to the ground by Chris Slayton, and Bryant is not getting up. This is a little scary. One-on-one into the end zone, touchdown! Syracuse, the upset, pulled by the Orange. They defeat Clemson 27-24.
The only thing off the table for this team is we're not going to be 12-0. But other than that, there's really nothing else that we still can't strive for.
Playmakers on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Kane breaks free. Headed for the end zone as the Tigers cash in the takeaway.
Intercepted to close the show.
Clemson is about to clinch their 3rd straight Atlantic Division title with a win.
Looking, now he'll take off. Shows the speed. Kelly Bryant, touchdown. And there's an interception off the deflection. Ryan Carter's got it. And Feaster breaks free and scores. And the Tigers headed back to the college football playoff.
The coaches poll debuted in 1950. There have been 3 programs to win back-to-back outright titles. Oklahoma in the 50s, Nebraska in the 90s, and Bama more recently. And now Clemson could be in position to do that as we are on the road to the college football
That's pretty
playoff.
good company.
Talking about Clemson with David Pollack and Booger McFarland. You know, I brought it up right at the beginning of the show, but you got to remember how so many of us were viewing Clemson just this summer.
Yeah, because all we kept thinking about was how are they going to replace Deshaun Watson? Well, it's really simple. They took a guy named Kelly Bryant. They said, you know what? He's not as good of a passer as he is a runner. So let's change the entire offense. We're going to make this a running offense. And Dabo Swinney and his staff's ability to adjust, they played to the strengths of Kelly Bryant. And because of that, it's allowed him to mature in the passing game, and they've been successful because of it.
Who did you say?
Dabo Swinney.
Dabo Swinney.
And his staff.
That's
Is that who you give the credit to here? This outstanding job of program building and coaching?
Listen, I knew they had some players coming back. Obviously, that was apparent. But to me, it's the culture that Dabo's created. It's the leadership that he's created. Back-to-back college football playoff appearances. He's the reason that I thought they were going to win a national title this year. I mean, he's that kind of good. That's how much belief I have in him. It's consistent. He's always consistent. If you ever talk to Dabo, and it hasn't been the same guy. It's always the same guy. The players relate to that. Listen, the hires. Chad Morris goes away. Tony Elliott, they promote from within.
Right.
You just see the evolution of him, and it's been...
Offensive coordinator.
Oh, yeah, it's been amazing. So he just, I think he is one of those guys that are here to stay. He's the 2nd best coach in college football right now, just behind Nick Saban.
And they go about it in different ways here, Boog. Obviously, you know the way Coach does with the process. But
They both
Dabo,
dance. What are you talking about?
come on now. But every time you focus in on Dabo, it's about the relationship with the players. It's about fun. It's about the swag, the juice, the energy in the program.
And Dabo understands that back when he's recruiting the kids, because he goes in, he talks to the parents. My job is not just to make your son a great football player. My job is to make your son a great man.
Yep.
And he develops those relationships at home, grassroots, brings them to Clemson University, and now you develop the men. I often say, if my son grows up to play college football, have no problem with him whatsoever playing for Dabo Swinney, because I know one thing. He's going to be a hell of a football player, but he's going to be a better man, and that's what you look for when you're a parent.
Yeah, but that's one thing it's easier said than done.
Correct.
It's not easy to relate to these kids that are 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. It's not easy to hold them to a high standard. Do you ever hear anybody get in trouble at Clemson? Not very often. I mean, they do a great job of running the program. There's discipline. You know good and well if you mess up, coach will step in. But he talks a lot about down the road. He talks a lot about building character, and he's done an amazing job. And just it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch because as we get more and more along in this business, you see guys go away like Spurrier that were amazing for so long, and then you say, who's that next guy that's going to step up? Nobody thought it was Dabo Swinney. Nobody thought an interim head coach.
Right,
Nobody thought he hadn't been an OC. He hadn't been a DC. A lot of fans didn't want him. They got him because he was a rah-rah guy. Let's get in here and finish strong with Tommy Bowden. Now he's the second best coach in college football.
What about the development of his quarterback position this year? Listen, anytime you lose the greatest player that a program's ever had.
You mean the defense?
We'll get to the defense in a second.
Hold your horses, big fella. Hold your horses a little bit.
Kelly Bryant. First of all, there were those who even doubted Kelly Bryant would necessarily win the job, but to see how he's performed this year.
You know what year Kelly Bryant is? He's a redshirt sophomore. You know what he's seen the last 2 years? College football playoff runs. He's sat behind the greatest player in the history of Clemson football with Deshaun Watson. So he's seen what it looks like to be meticulous and study and learn, and he's seen the grind. He knows what it takes. So I think he's been able to stand behind them and understand that. Good offensive line.
Yes.
Great weapons. New weapons that you hadn't even heard of until this year that are freshmen that are out there making plays, and he's just kind of the next guy up.
And his ability to develop has been paramount because although Dabo brought him along very slowly, at some point Dabo knows that this young man is going to have to throw the football. We can't run the football against some of the better teams in America from the quarterback position. So his ability to process information and to get better and better all culminates to this point in the college football playoff. Dabo understands that in order to win a championship, my quarterback has to be dual threat.
Why could you not rush him along?
Because he's a younger guy. You can't rush him along. He's a better runner than thrower. Yeah. Now he's developing into a passer now because Dabo brought him along slowly. And I love the process that he did that because early in the season, what did we say? This kid has to develop throwing the football. He can't throw it down the field. Well, now, guess what? You're in the playoff, and this young man can sling it down the field.
You could do that, and you could bring him along slowly because the defense is filthy.
You want to talk about this defense?
Bunch of animals.
Defensive line. We've said it many times. I firmly believe it. It's the best position group, group in the country of any of the position groups. The Clemson defensive line. Number 42 is, I think, Christian Wilkins. When we reflect on this era of Clemson football, we're going to talk about him the same way we talked about the great quarterback who was on the other side during this era.
Yeah, he is. He's so versatile. He can do so many different things. And one of the things that I really love about him the most is he always plays hard, too. And those guys up front.
Unbelievable motor.
They compete. And that's hard to do when you're 300-plus pounds. But you can just have a great – they complement each other very well. I mean, obviously you can put Wilkins anywhere. But you have other guys, too, that Farrell comes off the edge like a scalded dog. I mean, this dude is coming, humming every single time, making something happen. The tackles for a loss come, and they put you in tough situations. And they got multiple guys like Austin Bryant. You see 7 that can rush the passer. And they just got a great complement of guys that work for each other that make them just unstoppable.
Put it this way. They got 4 guys up front. They'll all be drafted in the top 2 rounds. The 2 defensive ends can rush the passer. Dexter Lawrence is the epitome of what I call a 3-4 nose tackle.
Oh, no doubt.
And Christian Wilkins is that 3 technique in mode of me. Small ankles, quick, fast. He can get up the field and hit the B gap. 4 guys, Joe. They will all go in the top 2 rounds.
Did you compare yourself to Christian Wilkins?
Absolutely.
I say that's more Warren Stat.
That's just me. They're both characters, that's for sure. Let's take you through Clemson's road to the college football playoff, remind you of some of the critical steps along the way. Now, how about that showdown that they had early, and especially when the defense made the statement with the 11 sacks in the win against Auburn.
The office.
That was a 14-6 game. Of course, the surprising loss, it happened at Syracuse. Of course, Kelly Bryant was studying that game, knocked out, had the bad ankle. The back-and-forth game with NC State was a real statement there, the pickoff at the end. And then by the time they got to the ACC championship, they were like a sharpened knife. I mean, they were cutting through anything. And They got a little bit healthier. That NC State game.
Ray McLeod was in the secondary. You were calling the game.
Ray McLeod is wearing number 21, going up and pressing at the line of scrimmage.
I'm listening to Joe Tess saying Ray McLeod in a big spot plays quarterback. Oh, my goodness.
But once they got healthy by the end of the season, Bryant overcomes everything with the ankle and the concussion. Dexter Lawrence is back. You get the 2 corners back to give you some depth in the defensive backfield. Nobody was touching them. Nobody was touching this team.
It's about focus. They've been getting better all year long, looking forward to one thing, getting to the college football playoff. The only game they lost, Kelly Bryant was hurt. He came into the game hurt, and I think that's why the committee really gave them a pass, and they was really the #1 team on the committee's board after that the entire season, especially after Georgia lost. I think when you look at this team, though, it's about focus. When they've been focused, like against Miami, they were untouchable. That defense leads to that offense. That offense can score against anybody. You talk about Oklahoma and Baker Mayfield's offense being able to put up 30 against anyone. Clemson's right behind them because they can run it, they can throw it, especially now, Etienne, little fire plug in the backfield. They have the ability to beat you in a number of ways. Maybe the most versatile offense in America.
We showed him scoring 14 against Auburn, but okay, I might disagree. Don't put him in the Baker Mayfield category, Oklahoma. I understand what you're saying, but they're not in that category because they can't stretch the field like those other guys. But I understand what you're saying. But again, it's just fun to watch this team compete. And listen, here's the thing. I think you get bored in the season. You know this, Boog. You know this, Joe. You get a little bit bored in the middle of the season.
The Pitt game last year, the Syracuse game this year.
NC State.
But the end of the season, closing time last year against South Carolina, they hit him in the head with a frying pan. This year, same thing. ACC championship game. Was there a doubt?
No.
It was over.
No.
It was over after the first 3 possessions. Like the orange britches comes out and it's go time. Clemson's ready to roll. Big games. They've been in a few, and I think now they're ready again for their stage.
Yeah, and that tells me they understand exactly what they are. They understand they can flip the switch, and they are a national title winning team. They really believe that, and they are charged by number 42 on that defensive line. When we come back, we will focus in more on Christian Wilkins and why that jersey number is so important to him.
Road to the College Football Playoff is presented by Allstate, official protector of college football fans. You're watching Road to the College Football Playoff, presented by Allstate.
Clemson defense has been just awesome this season. In addition to their FBS leading 44 sacks, opposing quarterbacks have a QBR of just 16. 16. That's #1 in the country. And there he is, the big anchor of it all, Christian Wilkins. 6'4", 300-pounder, the prize recruit from a Connecticut boarding school who blossomed into a 2-time All-American. Tom Rinaldi explains the significance of why wearing number 42 is so important to Wilkins.
A lot of people just don't know how much that number means to me. It's a lot more than just a number.
One number worn for one man. As a boy growing up in Massachusetts, Christian Wilkins gravitated most to one male figure in his life, his grandfather, Yuri Stamps Sr. They shared a love of sports and a spirit for living.
Loved his family, loved his grandkids. I mean, my dad was never really kind of around, so my grandfather was a big part of me just being that positive male figure in my life.
Just past midnight, January 5th, 2011, Yuri Stamps Sr. was at his home outside Boston when a local SWAT team entered on a drug raid, searching for Stamps' stepson.
I get the call from my mom about 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning. She's like, yeah, well, Grandpa's gone. The police shot Grandpa. I almost dropped to the floor. I just couldn't believe it.
He shot him. And I'm just like, I couldn't really believe it. I really couldn't believe it. He was face down.
During the raid, the 68-year-old grandfather, who had no criminal record, was shot by an officer while lying on the floor. According to a DA's investigation, the fatal shot was ruled accidental when the officer lost his balance and fired.
It's just devastating to know that my dad could be taken in such a seemingly like insignificant way that just didn't seem real.
It just hits you all of a sudden. It's like, just knowing that he's not physically going to be there for you. I'm just proud of what I've been able to do, you know, since he's left, you know. I just wish he was there to be able to see it all, for sure. Can we take a break or something?
Anger, hate, retaliation. I'm so grateful and so thankful that many of my family members did not go down that road.
In the wake of the shooting, Christian's family made a decision to change his surroundings. They enrolled him in Suffield Academy, an elite New England prep school.
I looked for an alternative route, went on campus for a visit, and it changed my life. Just the things I saw just on my visit just was like, wow, you don't see this at an everyday high school.
The thing that set him apart when he first got here was his personal qualities and how engaging he was, and the fact that he was going out of his way to meet new people.
At Suffield, Christian became the highest-rated recruit in the state of Connecticut. When it came to a college choice, he had a special request.
He had always wanted 42. I think the first thing he asked Clemson when he went down there was if he could be number 42.
42 represents the year in which my dad, Yuri A. Stamp Sr., was born, which is 1942. If he was going to be a part of that team, yeah, he had to have that number.
Christian made his commitment to Clemson in 2015 on a very specific day.
January 5th. I mean, you know, the day that my grandfather died, one of the worst days of my life became, you know, one of the best days of my life coming there to Clemson.
You see that great perspective. You think he's ever taken a play off while wearing that jersey? It's never happened. And he hasn't taken a play off in his years since coming from Suffield Academy to the ACC. Why is he so good, Boog?
Well, he's tremendous because of his size and his speed and his athleticism. Very rarely do you see a guy that's 6'4", over 300 pounds, that moves like a nimble ballerina. When you find somebody in that package, it's unbelievable. And he's the key to their defense. Most defenses are built inside out, front to back, and this Clemson defense is no different. Let's take a look at this front seven, because to me, the front seven is what makes this Clemson defense go. You got Dexter Lawrence at 340, you got Christian Wilkins at 300 pounds. Two guys that you say, you know what, let's run off tackle. No, can do, because those guys will come down the line of scrimmage and they'll make the play. Well, if you can't run inside, what about rushing the passer from the edge? You look at Bryant, you look at Farrell, they can turn the corner in 2.5 seconds, Joe. I can eat a hoagie that fast. They can rush the passer that fast. And you say, okay, what about the front four? Let's go to the linebacker position, Trey Lamar. Diagnosis, speed and space, the ability to find it, and more importantly, when I find it, can I go get it? Trey Lamar coming downhill. That physicality right there. The front seven of Clemson is the best part of their defense. It's the ability for that front seven to control the football game. They can dominate the point of attack. They protect the back end, and their defense is built from the front back. Phenomenal.
Yeah, Lamar, Dorian O'Daniel.
Yes.
I mean, that front four, it was a linebacker's dream.
Yes.
Right? They just clean things up,
yes.
Run to the ball, make some action there. It's going to be fascinating to see that front seven against Alabama's offense, and we will do that when we return to this path to the college football playoff, how things could be different than the matchup we saw a year ago. The trilogy is on in the Sugar Bowl.
You could be the bravest. You could be the greatest. Set the world afire, burn a little higher. Whoa.
Road to the College Football Playoff is presented by Allstate, official protector of college football fans.
The national title in year 2 of the playoff. Fought for tonight in the desert. A strike and a touchdown again. It's Renfro. Look out. Kenyon Drake can fly. Touchdown, Drake.
Alabama Crimson Tide is the champion of college football.
Could we get a smile? How about now?
You got it, baby. You got it.
Again, the sequel equal last year's classic. Here's Hurts again. Freshman sensation. Can you believe that? 2 yards away from glory. Watson to the end zone. They did it. Oh, about that.
Clemson paints the college football world orange. Clemson is declared kings of college football and national champs.
Clemson, y'all been waiting 35 years. It's finally coming home, baby. It's coming home.
And here we go again, third go-round for Clemson and Alabama. You know, you look through those highlights, you listen to the post-game celebration, a lot of familiar faces that we got to know who aren't going to be here this time. What do you see as the biggest difference here?
Well, there's a lot of guys that won't be there, too, obviously. Deshaun Watson, a lot of those guys on defense for Alabama. So it'll be interesting to see the trilogy because both teams are going to be so different from they were. I mean, a lot of the weapons for Alabama gone, but the same faces. That's what's really cool. Dabo Swinney versus Nick Saban. I got a new face for you to look out for. I got an X factor. Travis Etienne.
Freshman running back.
True freshman running back. I'm just telling you, guys, when he touches the ball, it looks like he's shot out of an absolute cannon. This dude can fly. He's got some skirts now. He can jet. He's a home run hitter, and he weighs that number 9 just like Wayne Gallman did in the past, and he's a different style runner. Pass protection is a little bit of an issue, but you give him the ball in space with some screens and get that running game going, that boy fast.
Look, how your Louisiana guy is getting away from LSU there?
I have
He's
no
a
idea.
Louisiana kid.
He is. Love Etienne. I think the biggest difference is mindset. Think about the last 2 times these teams have played. Alabama has been the dominant team.
Yes.
How can Clemson keep up the dominant defense of Alabama? Is it the best defense of all time? Clemson was the underdog. Not this time, guys. Clemson's the better football team. Number 1 ranked seed in the college football playoff. Been the number 1 team for most people all season. Alabama's now that team that's got to hunt. They got to go out. Hey, you're not supposed to be in. How did you get in? Ohio State maybe should have been in. So now it's the mindset. The mentality is different. Can Clemson handle being the favorite? Because in my mind, Clemson is the favorite in this game. Yep. And we always talk about the difference in 18 to 22-year-olds. Mindset. It'll be key in this game.
Do you think the Alabama players believe that they're not the better team? Do you believe the Alabama – now, we can perceive that. We saw how the season played out.
Right.
In that locker room, how do you think the Alabama players view it?
It doesn't matter. All that matters is that they're going to be told they don't have a shot.
Correct.
Guys like Booger up here, I'm just saying the best team in the country is Clemson. I agree. Guys like me doing it. I mean, it's a whole month of that. And it's a whole – not even that. It's back further than that. It's after the Auburn game. It's them getting in the college football playoff. There's so much of there's so much vitriol and hate towards Alabama, usually for them winning all the time. But now it's for them being in. They shouldn't be in. They don't deserve it. They'll use every ounce of that. That's the
mental side. Let's get to the XO side. Best way for Clemson to win this game?
Best way for Clemson to win is to do what Clemson does. Play excellent defense. Run tempo against Alabama. Because, again, last year, it wasn't the first quarter. It wasn't the second quarter. They beat Alabama last year in that great defense in the third and the fourth quarter by running all that tempo, all those plays. Kelly Bryant's feet, running up to the line of scrimmage, running them again, getting first downs, wearing them out. That's their best strategy. That's their ace in the hole. That's what worked so well last year.
They nearly had 100 plays on offense.
Crazy.
What do you think the key to a Clemson win against Alabama is?
The game needs to be played in the 30s. I don't think Clemson wants to play this game 17-14. I don't think Alabama can get in the 30s with this offense. Jalen Hurts still struggling as a passer. I think if you're Dabo and you're Kelly Bryant, you want to get this game 31, 35 points. If you get it there, I think they're in good shape.
And you have confidence in the Clemson defensive front against Jalen Hurts and the run game of Alabama?
Absolutely. I have confidence against everybody, except for maybe Baker Mayfield.
How do you see that matchup?
I think it's a matchup that favors Clemson, and Clemson has to win the matchup. If that matchup is neutralized, it favors Alabama. Clemson has to dominate that matchup. When you got 4 guys that are going to be drafted in the top 2 rounds, they better dominate.
We told you history is on the line. Clemson trying to become the 4th team to go back-to-back with national championships since 1950. Hope you've enjoyed the Tigers' road to the college football playoff.